think that's it.
We brought a lot of the little plants in here just to sort of affect the possibility of it.
Well, what we're trying to create is a half a mile of garden alongside the river, right between the main Olympic Stadium and the aquatic centre, and what visitors will be able to see is a garden which represents plants, flowers, perennial plants particularly, from around the world. So 120,000 plants coming from here, 250 species. And as I say, many of the plants in fact coming to the UK in commercial sense for the first time.
And so people will walk through this as they approach the Olympic
yes,
site?
They'll come across, they'll arrive at the aquatic centre, most people, they'll walk over the bridge, and as they're coming across the bridge they'll be able to see either side of the water, the plants, and then they'll be able to walk amongst them on either side of the river. So a major attraction for people, not only during the games, but for the next 50 years.
So essentially you're kind of building a new park in London, really, that people
Yes, so
can
we're
enjoy.
building a 200-acre park, and this is one part of that. So it's a park which in fact changes from trees and wild grasses and so on at one end, and a wetland area, down to this more planted, more like a garden atmosphere near the stadium.
Can you explain how Palmstead Nurseries managed to get on board on such a prestigious project as the Olympic Park?
Well, yes, I think it must be about 2.5 years ago we made tentative steps into the internet and web-based procurement portals. And we went to Compete For, and we registered on Compete For, and we went through the various processes there where you publish your documents. And then last November we had the invitation to tender. Again, it all comes through the web, and we set about the work of researching these plants that we're growing for the World Gardens in 2012.
And I understand it's really been quite an involved process, tracing some of these plants, some of them quite rare, some of them weren't sort of grown commercially. You've had to really hunt around to get them.
Yes, we've had to become a bit of a sleuth. We've had to track certain plants down and prize them out of people's collections. There was one hosta we were trying to get, which was a very tall hosta, flowers about this high, but we couldn't find it initially in the trade. And then the people at RHS at Wisley and the head gardener at Savile Gardens in the Royal Landscape generously donated us some clumps, and we've propagated from those. So we've now got enough plants to fulfil the requirements. So these plants will be going down in the spring.
And I suppose you hope that as people see these plants in the Olympic Park, they might become popular again as well.
Some of them, yes, some of them are definitely newer introductions to the wider audience for cultivation. As the designers are trying to create these semi-naturalistic plant communities, not just of the prairies in North America, where there are a lot of cone flowers and grasses, and there's even a plant called the compass plant, flowers about 2.5 meters tall, but its leaves point north-south. So it was always used by navigation by the native Indians. And then you've got the southern hemisphere plant community of the Drakensberg meadow, and we're growing over 2,000 Nifophias, the red hot pokers for the gardens, along with gladiolus, agapanthus and other things from South Africa.
So you must be quite pleased in the way that you're at the cutting edge of the nursery business, if you like.
We're delighted to be here, and it's something that all the staff are really enthusiastic about. It's lovely to be able to make our mark in that will have a long-term legacy as well, and that we're making a contribution to the efforts of a very large team.
Can I ask what you've thought of what you've seen here this morning at Palmstead Nurseries and why?
Well, I've been hugely impressed. I obviously know Palmstead quite well and have known them for years. And every time I come here, I'm impressed by the sheer scale of the operation, just the absolute precision, the automation they bring to a sector which many people will think is all done by hand, and you can't produce the plants we need for the Olympic Park by hand. And so it's good to see a firm in Y absolutely at the cutting edge of the industry.
You must be very pleased that a firm in Ashford, or near Ashford, is involved in such a prestigious project, really.
Well, I'm delighted, obviously delighted for Palmstead, but particularly because they and other nurseries in Ashford approached me years ago and said, look, one of the things the Olympic Park is going to need is plants. This is an area where we produce a lot of them. Let's see if we can't make sure that the British nursery industry, particularly obviously the nursery industry here in Kent, can benefit from the Olympics, and it's happened, and we're seeing living, growing proof today of the benefits that we'll get locally from the Olympics.